And a good Tuesday afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Week 11 of the high school football season, also known as Week 1 of the playoffs. We are here at Worthington Christian today to talk about their first-round game coming up on Friday night at Covington. I'm Dave Purpura, along with Jarrod, Ulrey, and our guest to begin the show is the head coach, Jeff Hartings. Coach, good to meet you.
Thanks
Good
to meet you, too.
Right.
Good to see you, Jarrod. Good to see you.
8-2 on the season. You've won 5 games in a row, and you're heading into November. I mean, you're going to be coming off a league championship as well. What's the season been like for you guys? 8 wins so far, and now heading into the postseason here coming up.
It's been exciting, but we talk about the process as the product here so much. Get a victory one week, get a loss, 1 week. You come back on Monday, you get refocused on the next opponent and what you have to do to win that week. So they're obviously very excited. Our community's very excited about clinching the league championship a couple weeks ago, clinching playoffs this past weekend, and I let them have that excitement over the weekend and told them ahead of time. It's like, come in Monday, forget about it, and we got to get to work and get ready for this next game. I think emotionally they've done a really good job of that.
Your program's only been playing varsity football for 6 seasons now, so it's obviously kind of seems like it's been a steady progression for you guys. I mean, what do you think are some of the reasons this program has continued to go in the right direction?
Players, first of all. We've got a lot of good players this year. We really do. I mean, I think we got 3 players that are, I would consider first-team All-State guys that every team in the state just about would love to have. And Lucas at quarterback, Lucas Hartings, and Braden Anderson at running back and at outside linebacker. He's fantastic. DJ Moore had over 1,000 yards receiving, so he's an explosive player. And then we have a lot of other ones. And then coaching, consistent coaching, year in and year out. This is my 5th year being able to coach here, and Coach Gallagher has been here for every year of this program on the defensive side of the ball. So, that's always a common denominator of really good teams. And our community has really gotten behind the team. So players have been wanting to come out. They're excited about coming out, and they take pride in winning and, kind of feel ashamed if they lose, and that motivation always gets you through practices.
You come from one of the most football-rich areas of the state, St. Henry. You've had success at a lot of different levels of football. What does this mean to be able to do this as a coach after all the success that you had as a player, to be able to guide this program here to the playoffs?
Yeah, well, where I grew up, St. Henry, Coldwater, Marion, Minster, my goodness, I don't know how many state titles. I mean, you guys probably know how many state titles come from that area. So what it does is it motivates me to practice and get ready for practice and do my job as a coach. And I think it helps because I can tell these guys, I can tell the difference between what really good football is and what's not really good football. So I'm able to keep telling these guys, that's not good enough yet. You think that's good enough. That's not good enough to get to the playoffs. And this group of guys has heard that for 3 years from me as the head coach. And so once again, it's like compound learning. It's compound, just getting better. Not just physically, but mentally and emotionally to get ready for games. And that's what we needed to win some tough games this year that put us in the playoffs.
You guys are traveling about 100 miles on Friday to play a team in Covington, which is about 45 minutes actually from where you grew up. What are some of your thoughts about this matchup Friday?
It's a good matchup, I think, for both teams. I mean, they got a really good team. They got a really good offensive line, good quarterback, good wide receiver, and so we're going to have to play very well. They're very well coached. That's one thing that we notice on film is their adjustments that they make, and they've played very good teams from my area. Fort Laramie, Minster, and St. Henry. They've been playing those teams for a while, so they know what playoff football is. And maybe they've been in the playoffs, I'm not sure. But I know that they know what playoff football is. They know what it takes to get to the playoffs, and they know what it takes to win important games like this. So I think both teams are pretty well evenly matched, and I think the team that makes the least amount of mistakes is going to win the game.
All right, Coach, we will let you get back to practice. Coach Hartings, thank you very much.
Thank you
for joining us. This Worthington Christian coach, Jeff Hartings, joining us. Heading out, like you said, to Western Ohio to play Covington on Friday night in Week 11. Now, you've seen this team quite a bit this year. You went down to Fisher Catholic to watch them get a huge win in their pursuit for a league championship. What stood out to you when you were doing your research and what you've learned about this matchup?
Well, as far as Worthington Christian, I mean, they're Division VI school, and they're very explosive for a school that's this size. And they have a quarterback in his son Lucas Hartings, he's very polished, very solid. And DJ Moore has been a great addition for him. Mm-hmm. I mean, we're going to be hearing a lot about him as a basketball player the last couple of years. For those of you who haven't heard a lot yet, I mean, he's exceptional as a basketball player. I mean, he's going to go major Division I for them. But as a football player, he's just kind of been like this. I don't know. I mean, he's been really amazing. I mean, he's got 47 catches for over 1,000 yards. I mean, it's pretty amazing.
So that's 20+ yards a catch. I mean, just rudimentary.
Really
math
explosive.
I mean, it is.
As far as Covington's concerned, I mean, he said he wasn't sure about how often they made the playoffs. They've actually made it, I believe, like 22 years or something out of the last 25. I mean, they're really a great program. They don't always win in the early rounds of playoffs. Actually, I think they've lost in either the first or second round. You know, a lot of the last few years. So, you know, it's going to be just a fascinating matchup to watch. You know, to follow Friday night.
And they're not in that Midwest Athletic Conference
right.
that has St. Henry and Minster and New Bremen. I'd be remiss if I said that St. Mary's, where I have family, has won some state titles out that way too. Although that's in a different league than what the MAC is. But yeah, I mean, just the things. Obviously, he played for the Steelers. He played for Penn State, and just to be able to have this kind of success at all levels of football is something that's pretty neat.
Yeah,
looking
absolutely.
at. Well, we have a lot of playoff games to talk to you about here over the next roughly 10 to 12 minutes or so, and we will start in Division I, Region 3, which is kind of the OCC postseason tournament, coming up beginning on Friday. The game I'm going to be at, or which I will be covering, whatever, number 5 Hilliard-Davidson will be at number 4 Groveport. This one stands out for one reason, because neither of these teams really pass all that much. Davidson has thrown 14 times all year. I don't know the exact number of times that Groveport has thrown, but these are two teams that want to run, and they have different philosophies on how to do so. Triple option for Davidson, the wing T for Groveport, and both of these coaches acknowledge this could be one fast game, but it's going to be really interesting to see whose style and will wins out on Friday.
Well, I mean, Groveport's coming off this rough game last Friday. I mean, they haven't had one until this past Friday. So how will they respond against, you know, the coach that I think everybody believes is you know, maybe the best coach in Central Ohio, or one of the best ones for sure. And I mean, he's had Brian White's had more success in Davidson over the last 20+ years than you know, just about anybody. So.
When I looked at their stats, the thing that stands out to me about Davidson is that, you know, they've got 4 rushers who have gone between 300 and 600 yards. That's how evenly they spread out that production. Johnny Weir, 611 yards and 12 touchdowns, and Chris Thornton's right behind him with 581. Groveport has different types of backs. Their fullback, Jashawn McGraw, is really the power guy who's going to pull people over. He's rushed for about 900 yards and 11 touchdowns so far this year. So, you know, who knows? I mean, that's that middle of that bracket. All these games are intriguing in their own right. This one is the only one, incidentally, that is not a rematch of a regular season game. And we're going to talk about those other 3. A couple matchups here that you know well soon. Pickerington North and Olentangy Orange. That's a 6 at the 3 on Friday. Orange's only loss was to Pickerington North. So,
and it wasn't even really a very close game. But the thing about it is that it's almost like last season. I mean, it's so long ago.
Yeah, that was back in September, which feels like a lifetime.
It's week 3. Both teams have kind of changed a lot since then. Pickerington North has kind of found their identity with Jack Sawyer, quarterback. That was actually his first game at quarterback.
That's right.
And maybe Orange just didn't really know exactly what to expect from him. And he had one of his best games actually. He rushed for over 100 yards. But I mean, that's got to just be really intimidating to see this 6'5" quarterback coming at you.
Well, and they're probably not the only ones who knew what they were going to get out of Jack Sawyer, right. Quarterback. I mean, obviously something has worked out well there. That's a tough one to pick. I guess, you know, Orange at home maybe has an advantage. Of course, the last game was at home. Yeah. So who knows? But Orange also has played really, really well since then, including being the only team to knock off Olentangy Liberty, who we're going to talk about in a moment.
Orange's defense is very special. They've got several playmakers on that defense. So I mean, they're going to come in with obviously some sort of plan on how they're going to get Jack Sawyer and Chris Scott, the combination of those 2 guys, keep them in check, and it could come down to how well Pickerington North is able to run the ball. They've run the ball. Actually, this is one of their best running teams they've had in a couple years with Idris Lawrence, and he's been hurt. Yeah. But they said, well, let's just start handing the ball to this freshman named DeJuan Green, and he had a great game. So maybe it has to do with how much better they are up front this year.
All right. The winner of that game will get the winner of the game that we're going to be talking about right now. 7th-seeded Reynoldsburg at number 2 Pickerington Central for the second time in 3 weeks. The Tigers got the better of them in the first one. What was it, 40-14 a couple of weeks ago? Right. And that's what enabled Central to take back the OCC Ohio Championship. And Well, I don't know how often, if ever, that we've seen this matchup in the playoffs, but it certainly is going to be an interesting one. Okay, well then, there you go. But yeah, man, second time in 3 weeks for these two rivals to be getting together.
Reynoldsburg's, I mean, this is the first time they've been to the playoffs in back-to-back seasons.
Ever.
Mm-hmm. So, I mean, they've been there 4 times, but the thing about it is that they're starting to get that expectation now where they feel like they ought to be there. This is the third time since, this is the third time in 5 seasons that they've made it. So, you know, they're starting to have a lot of confidence out there. And of course, Pickerington Central they're Pickerington Central. I mean, they were the #1 team in our final Super 7. They've got guys going to Ohio State and Ty Hamilton, Lorenzo Stiles going to Notre Dame, and they probably are running the ball maybe as well as they have with some of their running backs. Now, I mean, it's not just Demetri Crenshaw.
Yeah, who is a very talented
really
runner
good.
and passer in his own right.
But I mean, Nick Mosley has really emerged as a very solid running back. He didn't play last week because I think they were resting him because he's been a little bit banged up. And Saron Smith rushed for 200 yards. Now, I mean, yes, that's against Grove City, which has been struggling, but it's just kind of an example of how good this offense can be.
Final matchup in this region is yet another rematch, which would be top-seeded Liberty hosting 8th-seeded Westerville Central. This was a game back in Week 6 that Central dominated statistically, but they committed 3 turnovers and Liberty won the ball game, 17-7, I want to say. So you're looking at a Central team that has gotten better since then. They forced 7 turnovers, 4 interceptions last week over at Olentangy in a big win, and that's what enabled them to get in the playoffs and into this rematch.
This is not really your typical 8 versus 1.
It's not, no.
It's not. I mean, of course, Liberty has kind of pulled a few rabbits out of their hats this year. They're obviously a veteran team, got a veteran coaching staff. They know how to win at this level. They've done it 3 years in a row. They've gotten state semifinals, so kind of tough to pick against them. But I would think that this will be. It could come down to a couple plays here at the end. Not be surprising at all.
I'm trying to think. We saw an 8-1 upset a couple of years ago. Was it Gahanna? Am I thinking that pulled it off?
The last time it's happened in Ohio in Division I is actually 2014.
Oh, it was 14. Yeah. Okay, I'm thinking maybe a 7-2 matchup.
Yeah, it must have been. Yeah, there's been a few of those, but I mean, it hasn't happened for about 5 years where an 8's beaten a 1 in Division I. But no reason to say that it couldn't happen for sure. I mean, because Westerville Central seems to have grabbed, maybe it got its mojo back last week, so to speak. I mean, they were really impressive.
We got Ricky Hyatt back last week as well. Who do we pick? I guess you'll have to log on to Friday Night Live here in the next couple days to see that. Plenty of other games we definitely want to mention, starting in Region 2. Perrysburg is at Dublin Kaufman. I believe that is a 6-3 matchup, I want to say. Springfield is at Jerome. That's a 9-1 at an 8-2, and we don't want to forget to say also a team that we mentioned earlier this season, Marysville, is on the road at Springfield in an 8-1 matchup. Anything in either of those 2 Dublin matchups that you can think of that stand out?
Just that I think it's very impressive the way that Jerome has really turned it on here the last couple weeks since that. The Delaware game maybe just kind of woke them up a little bit, I think.
That does tend to happen to teams. When you have a shocking loss like that, it can help you refocus, and it can be better in the long run. Division II, Region 7, we were over at Olentangy last week, and when we talked to Mark Solis, and then after he left...
we kind of jinxed him.
We were thinking... Well, no, I mean, that's not even the direction I'm going in, but the fact of the matter is they thought they were going to play a team out of the Toledo area.
Oh, yeah.
Now, who they thought that was going to be was up in the air. They're going to go to Troy in a matchup. Troy loves to run the heck out of the ball. Olentangy is very good at passing. Trent Maddox has passed for over 2,100 yards this year. Coach Solis thinks that's going to be an interesting clash of styles. They're also one of only 6 5-5 teams in the whole state to get into the playoffs.
Well, that says something to the teams they've played, obviously.
It does, and they've got about as tough a schedule as anybody in Division II. Now, a couple of teams that are heading to Toledo, Westerville South is going to be at Toledo St. John's, and then about 10 miles from there, Olentangy Berlin is going to play its first ever playoff game at undefeated White House Anthony Wayne, which has not allowed all that many points this year. I think it's something like 6 shutouts, including 5 in a row for a while there.
Think about how far Westerville South and Berlin have come this year. I mean, Westerville South was a team that maybe we thought would be better, but no one could have predicted that they would bounce back and make the playoffs this year.
And they were 9th in the region coming in to last week. Berlin is one of 5 teams across the state making its first playoff appearances. Worthington Christian is one of them. Centennial happens to be another one. So 3 out of 5 in the area. 3 out of 5 first-timers are from this area. In Division II, Region 8, all 3 of the local qualifiers are on the road. Walnut Ridge is at Xenia. Canal Winchester is down at Harrison. And DeSales is at undefeated Cincinnati Turpin.
Yeah. Well, kind of a tough draw for a 10-0 Walnut Ridge team.
Going to a team that's making its first ever appearance. That's one of those other first-timers in Xenia.
That's true. Kind of interesting, yeah. Walnut Ridge hasn't really been tested for a long time, so I think it's probably very important that they get off to a good start, kind of establish themselves in this type of a game, and there's no reason to think they can't beat it, like you said, a first-time playoff qualifier. And maybe you can talk a little bit about the Canal Winchester game.
Well, Canal is running the ball very well, and they're going up against a Harrison team. Their quarterback has thrown for something like 5,000 yards, I want to say, the last 2 seasons. He's a senior. So they're going to sling the ball all over the place. And Coach Josh Stratton, when I talked to him Sunday night for the preview, was pretty excited about the possibility, of they haven't had to defend against a lot of pass-first teams this year. So he's anxious to see what they can do against a spread offense.
DeSales gets... They're 8-2, and yet they've got it's just this whole thing with there's a lot of really good teams in Division II, in both Region 7 and Region 8. I mean, you've got, here we're talking about, maybe Olatanji's 5-5, but most of the other teams are all 8-2, 9-1, 10-0. DeSales gets 10-0 Cincinnati Turpin. First matchup with them, so who knows what's going to happen out of that match. I mean, Turpin passes the ball really well from everything I can judge just from looking at stats.
Okay. In Region 11, Hartley is going to be at home against London. That is a 1-8 matchup. Centennial, where we were recently here, 2 weeks ago, I guess, is at Jackson. That's a 10-0 team. And all 3 Columbus teams, City League teams, we're going to mention the third one in a moment. All of them have to go on the road, and none of them get a favor as far as the atmosphere environment they're going to be going into on Friday and Saturday.
No, I mean, Jackson they're a savvy playoff team. They're there. It seems like they're there almost every year. A lot of times they get big wins in the playoffs. And as far as the Hartley-London matchup, London is that's been a program that's had a great turnaround the last few years. It's been kind of neat to watch that. I mean, about 3 years ago, I believe they were only about 4-6 or 3-7, and here they've become a team that's made it to the playoffs. They do a lot of power football. And they've had some great offensive lines out there. So that game's gonna come down to if can Hartley get its athletes out in space. I mean, they've probably got more athletes than London does. So if this could come down to guys like Richard Kenny, Marcellus Parker, some of these guys, in addition to Jalen January coming off this great game last week.
Division 6, Region 24, Grandview is going to go down to Ross County to take on Bainbridge Paint Valley. 3 games on Saturday. Division 4, Region 15, the third Columbus City School qualifier is Marion Franklin, and they go over to 10-0 Licking Valley. In Region 19, Columbus Academy is going down to Amanda Clear Creek. I believe that's a 5-4 matchup. And then yet another 8-1 matchup is in Division 7, Region 27. Harvest Prep is at home against Fisher Catholic.
Randy Bachman has another team at 10-0 for Licking Valley.
Remember they had that huge win against Granville. That's a huge reason why a couple of weeks ago.
It's just a program, man. That's impressive. I mean, they just do it every year. I mean, I think they've had maybe had that like a 4-6 season a few years ago, but I mean, they're almost money in the bank. And as far as Marion Franklin, I mean, I think it's good for them as a program to be able to make it this far. I mean, they had a little bit of adversity a couple weeks ago. With what happened at the end of the Walnut Ridge game, and from everything I've gathered from talking to Coach Laxa, they really learned from that experience, and so this will be good for their program to get that matchup.
And speaking of 10-0 teams, one of those notes from across the state, we don't see this very much. 2 of them are going to be at home watching this week. Neither of them are from this area. They're both from roughly the Toledo area, Northwood, which is a suburb up there, and then Gibsonburg, which is more near Fremont. 2 10-0 teams get left out. I mean, we see somebody deserving get left out every year. Canal was the big culprit in this. I shouldn't say culprit, but they were the victim, really, in this area last year. But overall, the system rewards these teams that play good schedules. You earn what you get throughout the year, and I guess you're going to earn even more what you get over the next 5 weeks here.
Well, if a couple things had gone wrong for the teams that Walnut Ridge beat, maybe if Beechcroft would have lost to Northland last week, You know, or I can't remember one of the other teams they beat, Watkins Memorial. I mean, they only went 3-7.
Yeah.
A couple things go wrong there. You know, maybe we'd be talking about that with Walnut Ridge. I mean, it's just sometimes you get in a big league like Walnut Ridge where you're kind of at the mercy of who you play.
Yeah, that's the real tough part of it.
It is.
You can't control what your opponents do. All you can control what you can do, and then hope that they do well at the same time. So, well, we are going to get out of here. Week 1 of the playoffs, Friday night and Saturday night. We will have you covered both nights at ThisWeekSports.com. For Jarrod, Ulrey, and for Worthington Christian coach Jeff Hartings, I'm Dave Purpura. So long, everybody.